Hey there, my name is Kirsten Larson, and I'm a part of the Inlight Connection team with Doug and Linda Addison, and I'm so glad you're here, whether you're listening to the live audio or video, or you're listening to the replay of the podcast. We are excited to be releasing some new things within the podcast during this season, while Doug and Linda are officially now on sabbatical, taking time to rest for all of the 20 plus years that they have poured into the body of Christ, prophetically and ministered powerfully, leaning into all that God has for the body. And now in this season, we are praying and blessing them to be able to take time to rest, to reset, and really receive what God has for the next season. So many of us are partnering with what Doug and Linda are doing to be able to give that time to rest. And within the partnership, we are bringing in some pretty incredible speakers, ministers, pastors, and leaders in the industry that are friends with Doug and Linda, who are coming to minister to the partners. They're releasing prophetic words, insights, revelations, and even giving time for Q&A and ministering individually to those who come live to the calls. It's something you can have the opportunity to partner with if you jump on it on the inside. But we wanted to give you a snippet of what's happening on the inside, because these have been such powerful and rich times. So if you listen in, we're having Pastor Tony Kim of Bakersfield and Roar Academy is releasing a powerful word over the year 5784, which on the Hebraic calendar is where we are right now. So tune on in and you won't want to miss this. And if you'd like to hear the whole word, you can jump on in for a partnership of any level, and you'll support Doug and Linda Addison as well as receiving all these words and ministers and a powerful opportunity to receive mentorship for yourself. God bless.
So we are in the new Hebraic calendar, 5784. How many of you are familiar with the Hebrew calendar? You know, it's not only the Hebrew calendar, but it's the biblical calendar. But even more than the biblical calendar, it's God's calendar. It's God's timing. We step into the decade of the 80s, within the Hebrew calendar. And, oftentimes I hear people say this. I'm an 80s child. I don't know if you are, but, I hear a lot of people say the 80s were from Hades, within that decade and what they experience, what we experience. And here we are in God's calendar year in the 80s, feeling like it's from Hades. But I want to tell you, God is shaking up way more than the enemy could ever shake up. And we know when the enemy shakes things, it's for destruction. But when God shakes things up, it's to bring us into perfect alignment and order with what he's doing in the kingdom. So I asked the Lord, I said, what are you doing? I know what the world's saying. I know what all this publicists and op-eds and, I know what all the Facebook prophets are saying. And, but what are you saying? And this is what he told me. He said, those who can embrace this season, Tony, I'm calling them, and this is my Sabbath season for my body. He said, I'm bringing my people into Sabbath. And he said, so don't get caught up with everything and all the hearsay and the news and all the reports going on. He told me, he said, stay attuned to my voice in the news of heaven. And so here we are coming out of this space, and it was a cocoon season. And then the Lord spoke to me and said, it's a time for, I said, so what, in the Sabbath, what are you doing? He said, it's Romans 12, 1-3. And I'm just going to read that. Romans 12, 1-3. And it's just one of these, I love these verses. And it says, I urge you, brethren, therefore, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. And so worship was key. The battle during 2020 to 2023 was not a battle for freedom, although it was actually a battle for worship. The whole pandemic, the God Pan was, I call him the demonic worship leader, right? He seduced with this flautist as a flautist with sounds and music, and then came in and destroyed them. But it was all about worship. Who are we going to fix our eyes on in worship? And then he said this, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. that you may prove the will of God, that which is acceptable, good, and perfect. And so a people with a transformed mind, with a prophetic perception, don't no longer seek the will of God. We prove the will of God. We proclaim, we decree, and we connect, and we contend for the prophetic words that the Lord's given to us, individually, but also corporately. And so it's a time of transformation. Be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And this is one of the things I love about miracles, signs and wonders, and this whole revelatory realm and dimension of the prophetic is each moment where we experience God, he's changing the paradigm, and he's actually fashioning and renewing our mind to think more like heaven. And so in this season, it's key for us to begin to understand that we as a body of Christ have been given the mind of Christ. Not me, but we. And I really believe that we have to replace the me with the we in this season. It's about this corporate community. And that's why this in-light connection community here, as we're going month to month, it's so powerful, and it's such a key to advancement that our breakthrough becomes one another's breakthrough. And this is the power of community, that when one person receives a prophetic word, it's confirmed by 2 or 3, we're able to contend and pray and cultivate and really battle, to see the fruition of that word birth through the womb of the Spirit. And so he's transforming us. And so this whole thing of the butterfly, it's really interesting that this whole butterfly thing came about. If you ever study the science of how a butterfly or a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, they did a study one time where they had cocoons, and what the scientists did was they put and cut a little hole for a couple, over a couple cocoons where the butterflies, were forming. And we know that when the butterfly turns into, or the caterpillar turns into a cocoon, within that chrysalis and within that process, they turn into mush. They liquefy. The brain literally melts into liquid, and it doesn't reform. It's a new creation. And so within that process, there's a new creation that takes place. And in fact, that caterpillar, no longer is a cat, it's a butterfly. But what happens when the scientists put a little hole in the cocoon? They had the process, the butterflies in the cocoon without the cut came forth, flew away. The ones with the cocoon, they broke forth, and they realized they could no longer fly, because it was the pressure of the cocoon as they were growing inside it. They were outgrowing the cocoon. And so what happens within the butterfly, every time they would stretch their wings, there was a acid within their body that would infiltrate their entire DNA of their form. And every time they did that, there's this liquid that would just penetrate all over their body internally, which then that allowed them to form into this butterfly that gave the wing strength to fly. And so what am I saying? There's no shortcuts in the kingdom. And so we go through this process, and so, many of us are coming out as caterpillars into butterflies. But unless we have the butterfly mindset, we're not going to realize we can fly. And I want to show you, this is a season for us to fly. This is a season for us to grow. This is a season where this is the exact phrase the Lord gave me for this year. Heaven's help is coming. Heaven's help is coming.
So I've been talking about Linda and I needing a much needed time off and sabbatical. And we're raising finances right now. We're raising up people to pray. Go to DougAddison.com/time off. DougAddison.com/time off. And you'll see the partner program and the things. You can just donate any amount, actually. Pray about it. Consider giving. We really do need the financial breakthrough right now. And if you go there, you'll see that we have a program going so that In-Light Connection will not close. We want to raise up the partner program. that will get people to be giving. But we have a monthly mentoring session that's already going. And even if I'm not on there, there's been some amazing speakers already. Brian Simmons, there's just been some powerful work. We have some people coming up that would just really blow you away. So go right now in this time. First of all, pray and ask the Lord. It doesn't have to be any specific amount, but we're trying to raise up 1,000 people to give $55 a month or any amount. And you can become part of the partner program or giving any amount. That would be great.